Oceangate, Stockton Rush, Narcissist, Part 8. We now turn to the transcript of the interview that took place between Stockton Rush and David Pogue of Unsung Science from CBS Sunday Morning. The actual interview is rather long, and what I have done is, having read through the entirety of it, I have taken selected excerpts that enable us to see various aspects of the personality of Mr. Rush. It starts with Pogue stating, "Stockton Rush, thank you for joining us. Can you, in a nutshell, describe this business?" Rush, "No." Pogue, "Okay, we're wrapped." Now, this was at the very outset of the interview, and for him to close it down in such a way shows an arrogance and a haughtiness. He, of course, may well be accurate, that you can't describe it in a nutshell, but you would expect greater expansion rather than just shutting the question down in the way that he did. The fact that he didn't attempt to describe it in some way means that he deemed the question to be irritating, that he may well have perceived it as a threat to control. Rush continues by stating, "In my whole life, I wanted to be an astronaut. I was part of the tail end of the Apollo crowd. I went and got an aerospace engineering degree. With that goal, I wanted to be a fighter pilot, but my eyesight isn't good enough for that." Note here, this is very matter of fact. It's not embellished. He's an intelligent man. He had an aspiration to be an astronaut. He went and got an aerospace engineering degree, and then he said he wanted to be a fighter pilot, something that, save for his eyesight, he might have been able to do, but he wasn't able to. There's no pity play here. It's explained as a matter of fact, and there's no embellishment with regard to his achievements. He simply states them. Pogue responds, "Oh no," and Rush then states, "I had this epiphany that I didn't want. It was about going to space. It was about exploring. It was about finding new life forms. I wanted to be sort of the Captain Kirk." Character trait acquisition. Remember again, somebody can explain aspirations by reference to somebody else, and it amounts to character trait acquisition. It doesn't mean that they per se are a narcissist. "I didn't want to be the passenger in the back." Grandiosity. "And I realized that the ocean is the universe. That's where life is. And it fit very well. It turns out that an aerospace engineering degree actually has helped me to do things in the submersible world that people who don't understand compressible fluid flows didn't quite figure out." That shows his haughty dismissiveness for other people and the fact that he believes that as a consequence of getting an aerospace engineering degree, he knew more about world under sea than other experts did. Pogue explains, his baby is an undersea adventure company called Oceangate. For $250,000, he'll take you to the bottom of the North Atlantic in a custom-made experimental submersible to see the wreck of the Titanic for yourself. Rush states, "It's a very unusual business. It's its own category. It's a new type of travel. It's sort of on the cutting edge, I think, of the whole adventure travel moment." Pogue, "Is it kind of like the new rocketry, taking up citizens?" Rush, "Yes, I think from a procedure standpoint it's similar. So we go through a lot of checklists, a lot of procedures, a lot of sign-offs. The process, the life support systems are basically identical." Pogue, "Who are the typical clientele for these missions?" Rush, "So we have clients that are Titanic enthusiasts, which we refer to as Titaniacs. Some of those folk are affluent and some are not. So we've had people who have mortgaged their home to come and do the trip, and we have people who don't think twice about a trip of this cost. We had one gentleman who had won the lottery. By the way, the cost of an Oceangate Titanic adventure has not always been $250,000, explains Pogue. The first summer of Operation 2021, a ticket cost only half that much. But then Stockton Rush saw how much people were willing to pay to go to space, and he thought, man, I'm leaving money on the table. Accordingly, this suggests an element of greed, evident that his operational costs were easily covered buy a ticket costing $125,000, he saw an opportunity in the market. Ally this with the fact that he does appear to have a flippancy with regard to safety, and the fact that he saw an opportunity to make more money. This does show that he was prepared to compromise the safety of individuals, although in his mind he did not believe that he was doing so, which shows evidence of grandiosity and also delusion, in order to make money. Pogue explains, "I did not pay $250,000. Rush invited CBS Sunday Morning to join his 2022 expedition to the Titanic, and somehow, I got the gig. Thank you, Karma." Pogue then asks, what other institutions are doing this regular visit thing to the Titanic? Rush, no one is doing it to the Titanic, so it's nobody. The last time anybody went to the Titanic was a brief trip in 2019. And before that, the last time anybody went in a submersible, I think, was 2005-2007. So no one has been down there, and no one is planning to go back, except us. Pogue, wow. Why isn't it the most studied, visited archaeological site in the world? Rush, well, I mean, it's very difficult to do. It costs a lot to get that ship out there. Pogue, are these scientific expeditions, or are they adventure travel expeditions? Rush, so they are a blend. They are technically adventure travel with a science component, or a research component, or an exploration component. Every dive has a scientific purpose, or a research, or an exploration purpose, but it is funded by somebody who is looking for an adventure travel experience. Accordingly, what in effect Rush is doing is using the money of people who want the adventure to then subsidise undertaking also a research, exploration or scientific purpose. Pogue then goes on to explain that Oceangate insists on addressing its paying customers with the clumsy 5-syllable term mission specialist. Before our shoot this summer, they even emailed me a document that basically said, in the news reporting, thou shalt not use the term tourists, customers, passengers. The term is mission specialists. This smacks of grandiosity, making it sound like it is some wide-ranging mission going into space, for example. Here, of course, going under the waves. Also, the fact that an email is sent saying you've got to call it this is demonstrative of a need to control the narrative that the journalist may use. Poe goes on to state that it's the case that people are invited to do actual work on the sub all week. And how real, he asks, are the jobs being done by those folks? I mean, is it keep your area tidy, that kind of thing? Rush interjects, make work or not? Yes? Poe asks, yes, make work. Rush goes, no, it can be. There are things that are maybe less critical, for example, reviewing video content. You know, you're not going to hurt anybody if you mess that up. We've sort of identified what those things are. Cleaning out the sub when it comes back. We've got to put new supplies in, closing the dome. You can double check that easily. So a lot of these things are easy to do. Notice here that there's a degree of exploitation taking place. Somebody's paid $250,000 to be taken down to see the Titanic, and they find themselves being involved in undertaking work that benefits Rush. Now, it might be that some people would find that not a problem. They'd be interested to undertake some video content work. But being asked to clean out the sub and put new supplies in, which is grunt work after you've paid that amount of money, does seem again rather arrogant on the part of Rush to behave that way. Now, we continue with a further examination of this particular interview in part 9. Join me there.